Good morning. It's nice to have the first thing in the morning instead of right before lunch. So I don't have any jokes to start out. I appreciate the people who are wearing costumes and getting in the spirit of Halloween. So the best I could do was a non-standard shirt. So that's what I've got. So the presentation today, I'm going to do something a little different. We will talk a little bit about the overview of Field Seeker and our portfolio. But I want to talk about different ways that customers have used Field Seeker to respond to service requests and various workflows in the software. So I'll show a little bit more of the software than I usually do in these presentations. I'll talk a little bit about what we've been working on lately and then what's upcoming, our road ahead for our software. So we're always glad to visit with customers and get new ideas. So as we talk about some of that, if you have ideas that you'd like to see added, come talk to me at the last break or just get with me even after the show. So Field Seeker is intended to be kind of an all-in-one solution for tracking all the different data that's required for integrated pest management and mosquito and vector control. Now in a lot of the county programs and a lot of the public health programs, there are additional things that we maybe don't address. So that's one of the areas we're interested in hearing more about. But our Field Seeker core app is larviciding surveillance service request. And then our Field Seeker ULV app is for the truck spray tracking. We have a couple of people who are also using our separate public notification app. And that's just a branded app that the public can download and enter requests and get updates on planned activities. This is how it's kind of architected. Field Seeker Core is built around ArcGIS Online. So we do use Esri. Most of the local government entities throughout the country use Esri. So that makes it usually pretty easy for us to work with IT or GIS and get support. But ArcGIS Online is where all the data and maps are hosted. And then Field Seeker Core is a web app for configuration, reporting, etc. And then a mobile app that's available on all the app stores. We can also import data from a variety of sources. So people have truck spray or drone systems that output any kind of data. We can pull that in. And then the ULV app is a separate app. It can be implemented independently of Core. So some people already have their own solutions for tracking larviciding and surveillance. So truck spray app can be used by itself, and that one does not require any Esri licensing. So it's we did that for low cost of entry. There's no license fees for the database or for the GIS parts, just for the Field Seeker part. All right, so just a bit about why we do use Esri. Besides the fact that everybody in local government tends to have some familiarity or some access to it, it's also a way to collaborate and share data. There's a whole sharing and security model that's built in there, so it makes it easy to share data with the public or with people inside and outside your organization. It's also a platform that has a whole bunch of Swiss Army knives in it for presentation, dashboards, special purposes, data collection. So we build our app on top of it, and then if there's additional things that are needed, sometimes we can just do that with another piece of the Esri platform. It also gives you full control and ownership of your data. So when you buy Field Seeker, you're in control of the data and maps. So if in the future you don't continue to pay maintenance on the licensing, you still have all of your data and maps. And even while using Field Seeker, you can use that data in other contexts. You can make your own dashboards and so on. So it's very flexible, it's very configurable. Sometimes that means it can be complex in ways that are kind of silly. Everybody who's worked with Esri probably loves it and probably hates it sometimes. So the things you can do with it are amazing, and the things that you end up spending your time figuring out are not so amazing a lot of the time. But it is quite a platform, and Esri keeps on keeping up with all of the changes in technology, so we can just focus on building mosquito control solutions. So this is just a little bit more about our portfolio. So Field Seeker Core, again, web app and mobile app. We also have a vector serve gateway integration, so more and more of the states are using that vector serve system. And then we can also sell ArcGIS online licenses with the Field Seeker core. ULV is office and mobile licenses, and then we also have some hardware options there. So some operations use a weather station in the truck, and that can be connected directly up to the mobile software. So it tracks the basic weather information along with the spray points. And then hardware, we promote the Juniper Mesa series, so Mesa 3 and Mesa Pro. And those are Windows devices that have a built-in GPS that's good quality, and they have a built-in 9-pin serial port, so you can still connect to all the different sprayers that still have connection via cable. Those Mesas, we have more than 1,000 of them out throughout the US in mosquito control, and they've been very reliable. For the truck spray app part, they get 5+ years of life generally. And the Mesa Pro just came out about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago. It's 10-inch screens, just a bigger screen, and a little bit better specs, well, quite a bit better specs. That public notification app, only a few districts are using that, but it kind of aims at a gap in between email notification, website notification, social media. Sometimes those things kind of get buried for people, and some of your best fans or worst detractors who track all the things you're doing can sometimes instead use an app to get subscriptions and push notifications for what's going on in their area. So I don't know if that's necessarily a great thing or not, but a few districts have done it, and it seems to kind of fit that gap where people really want to stay informed. A lot of people are doing some of the similar things just on their websites, but then someone's got to go to the website and visit it. Or if it's social media, it just gets buried in all of the other things that come in on those kind of feeds. Our portfolio also includes a bunch of unmanned hardware, software, services, training, and repair. So as more districts get into using drones for treatment and also just using smaller drones for visual scouting or mapping things, then there's options available through our company for that. Most of our recent hires as a company have been drone people who are basically salespeople, but also many of them do services, data acquisition services, and things like that. And then just about 2, maybe 3 years ago, I guess, we added a sister product for Field Seeker for invasive plant control, so noxious weed management, and then lately more on aquatics and lake management. So that kind of intro out of the way, make sure where I'm at on time. So I just want to talk about a few of the service request scenarios in Field Seeker. And I tried to gather some information from as many different kinds of customers as I could about how they do it, because everybody's different with how they handle service requests. And Field Seeker doesn't enforce a specific workflow. Like some softwares, you have to have a work order first and you have to do this. And so there's some sequential steps in the software that you'll see, but we try not to enforce a specific type of response and give people the option to deal with that as they want to. Some operations get, maybe dozens or hundreds of service requests at most in a year. Some get dozens or hundreds a week or a day. And so it just depends on, what the kind of scenario is. So as far as creating service requests, this can be done internally in Field Seeker, either in the Office app or the mobile app. It can be done externally by a member of the public through a Survey 123 web form on a website or through the public notification app. And no matter how it's created, it comes into the system, and then business processes that are part of how you do your internal work come into play, as far as how to assign them or review them or how to respond to them. We'll look at some of the screens that are involved with responding and recording field activities, and then the kinds of things that you can see in reviewing them or running reports, and also a specific kind of workflow a couple of examples of how this can be integrated with the ULV truck spraying part as well. So as far as creating service requests within FieldSeeker, in FieldSeeker Office, it's going to start with either an address search or a map click or cloning an existing request. So the address search just uses the Esri geocoding service, and so then that means that the entries are going to be consistently spelled and a correct address, and so that's helpful when you're trying to search for things later. That geocoding service, we do default to using the Esri one, but some counties or localities have their own geocoding service that's more accurate. So ArcGIS Online can use a more accurate geocoding service as well, and FieldSeeker will pick that up. A map click will just do a reverse geocode, and if there is an address there, it'll pull the address out, put it in the request. But you also are not required to put it at an address, because as we know, a lot of the service requests that people report may be on property that doesn't have a house, or maybe on a park, or maybe on a public, access to something, a boat ramp, who knows. So it doesn't have to have an address, it can just be a location on the map as well. The clone feature allows you to find an old request and just basically copy all the details that are relevant from the previous one into the new one, so avoiding having to retype all that stuff. And then the person entering the request just puts in whatever information is new about this particular request. The pop-up that's displayed when the data is entered is completely configurable too. So in the ArcGIS Online environment, that's all controlled through the layers pop-up settings. So you can choose what fields need to be there, what you're trying to collect. And then you can also be configured to auto-assign requests. That's pretty simplistic. It's basically if you have one tech assigned to a zone, it can automatically assign based on zone. That status of the request, some people just manage them as open requests, so everyone can see the request until someone starts working it, and then it's assigned only to them. Some people will assign it to a person, some people will assign it to more of a headless user like a crew, so crew one, and in any case, whether it's open or assigned, it's immediately available on the mobile device for the field tech. A couple of other examples for creating a request. The mobile app can also be used to create it. So if the tech is doing something and someone, they have contact with somebody in the field, that it doesn't kind of in-person request, that can be entered in the mobile app. We see a lot more of the web forms on people's websites. So the Survey 123 web form is a great example because it's pretty easy to set this up. This is part of the Esri platform, and it's an app that's just included with your subscription and allows you to build a form exactly how you want it to be, and then that data comes directly into FieldSeeker. The Survey 123, how many have used Survey 123 before? So quite a few, okay. So there's a few examples, on the screen here, but I've seen some from some of the operations here in Ohio as well. So that's also a nice tool because it's pretty easy to get it embedded in a website or get it tied to a new button. And so we found that even people who don't control their own website, it's usually not too hard for them to make that request to whoever does the website. But basically, you just click the button for a new request. And another nice thing about the survey forms is that they can be conditional. So depending on time of year, depending on type of request, it can gather additional info or require additional info or give some explanations of how you do your service and try to set expectations for how long it's going to be before someone comes around for that and all that kind of stuff. So it's more than just a data capture form. It's a little bit of an explanation and training tool too, and it's been really effective for people. There are some kind of getting started videos on our support portal and on Esri's website too for how to get, how to create those survey forms. And like anything, there's a little bit of a learning curve, but once you've learned the basics of it, it goes pretty quick, and you can build a form in a couple hours or half of a day, and then you're set. A couple other ways to create requests. One is just through that public notification app. So Saginaw, Michigan is one that has that app and allows the members of the public that have downloaded the app to submit a service request directly in the application. It's also possible to create requests from external systems. So it's pretty common for people to have a 311 system or some, centralized system where all the requests come into, and then they get, farmed out to the different departments. And so many times those systems, most of the time they have some kind of an API, and sometimes they even have configurations where you can have it automatically create a request in FieldSeeker when one's created in that system, for example. So we've built a few integrations with those kind of systems so that you don't have to double enter something in FieldSeeker. But what we often find is those systems are good for gathering info and maybe for many other purposes, but when you go to work that service request in the field, then it's a bunch of mosquito control specific stuff for inspections and surveillance. And so you want to be able to enter all that data, and that's what FieldSeeker is for. So anyway, building that connector between the two systems using APIs is something that we're happy to do. So as far as working service requests, I'm going to cover a few different ways that that can be done in the applications. This one I found interesting. So this is Collier County, Florida, next to the Everglades. And their report mosquitoes button specifically says, basically, thank you for the information, we're not going to respond to you. Don't you wish you could do that, on a lot of things? But it's still valuable data that they can use because it's like hot spots. Where are we getting a bunch of requests? But they already have activities planned, they have aerial sprays planned, they have truck sprays planned, so they can basically encourage the public to keep communicating, but then they're not going to necessarily specifically call every single one of them back and tell them what they did. So they have, website tools and things like that for showing what they've done recently. So that's kind of an interesting one because it's still valuable to see and hear what people are complaining about. There's just maybe ways to make it not so time consuming if possible. And of course those are nuisance mosquitoes, so they're not public health threats usually, it's just nuisance mosquitoes. A few other ways to respond to the requests though, we'll look at how this can be done in the mobile applications. So the FieldSeeker mobile app has a service request manager, and it shows the number of requests that are assigned to the person. And so they click on that, they can see all of the open ones, they can see all of the ones assigned to themselves. If you're signed in as a supervisor, you can also see the ones that are assigned to your crew. And within this interface, you have the ability to accept, reject, unassign, reassign, move, get directions, and then add the related activities. So we've responded to people's requests over the years and continue to enhance this so that it is as easy as possible for busy people who are in the field to also know what's going on with maybe their crew or where things are at in process. And so there are a variety of tools in the mobile app to support that. As far as recording field activities, okay, so this is just a screenshot of rejecting a request. So some operations use this, not very many, but because of distance or workload or some other reason, then that gets marked as having been looked at, but can't do it right now for whatever reason, and then it can be reassigned to somebody else. So the supervisor can look at all of those ones that were rejected and quickly assign them to somebody else. And as far as okay, this is a screenshot of selecting several requests and then reassigning them to somebody else. So if someone is out for the rest of the day, something comes up, that's possible to do that from the field, so you don't have to go back to the Office app and do it there. All the details for the request are displayed. The user can add field activities, so that includes the site visit, inspection, and treatment, and sample. Also, they can record that they set a trap or miscellaneous activities in time or landing counts. You can also add pictures, videos, attachments. So what was done at the request, forms that people fill out, whatever, it can all be added to that request as attachments. Multiple requests can be selected and closed all at one time. And so a comment can be put in that applies to all of those requests. So maybe there's a whole bunch of requests on one cul-de-sac, and you've treated the source that's nearby, and so closing all of those requests based on that one action, you can do that as a batch close. It's also possible to search for past closed requests. So if you're at an address and you want to see how many times have we been here, in the last couple of years, you can search for the address and it'll bring up all the past closed ones as well. Can't go back. So hope you remember, those screens. I think I was done talking about what was on those screens, but yeah, I think the only other thing in the mobile app is just the ability to get directions. So, you have folks that are not familiar with all the areas, and you have to send them out. So it just pops over to the, directions, the Maps app on the device. As far as reviewing and reporting, so we have our data review screens in the Office application where you can view the requests and what's been done on them. The field notes, the activities, the history, as well as the attachments and anything else can be viewed there. And it can also be edited and updated there. There's also the ability to just find it on the map and update it. The search and filter tools can be used to see all the ones that are maybe assigned to a certain person or that were closed in a certain time range. Those can be exported out or batch closed within the table widget. Selecting multiple requests, you can then close them, reassign them, or you can pick a specific one and clone it. There's also our batch attribute editor, so if you wanted to select a group from the map and set them all as assigned to somebody or close them all, you could do that as well. And then there are also printed reports that can be exported out that show all of the things done on the request as well. So there's several ways to quickly see what's going on with the request, so that whoever is either answering the phone or answering an email or whatever can know exactly what's happening. So a couple of examples from integrating with ULV. So our truck spray app can integrate with this service request workflow over in Core and be able to pull all those requests into the truck spray app as well. The requests can be pulled, routes that were created from them can be pulled over, and they can also be set up to automatically close requests based on the truck spray route that's done. So here's just the example of the service request pull and filter. So if I pull all the service requests and in the truck spray app, I just want to see the ones that are for truck spray and not all the rest of them. So you set the filters accordingly. This is what the driver would see with the service requests. So it can just alert them to where those are at on their routes or on their assignment. This is the auto close feature. So if I run a spray route and those are all the requests that are affected by where I sprayed, then it can automatically close them, and it'll put notes in for each request that it was closed by a truck spray. That can also be pushed over to Field Seeker Core so that the daytime crews or people in the office can see where the truck spray happened and what was done, how it was treated with. And those are the notes that go in automatically when you set up the auto close. The routing feature, so Esri has tools to do a best route for a group of points. So there are some operations that do thousands of requests a week, and mostly for truck spray. And so this is a way to select a group of a couple hundred of them in a town and do a best route that covers all of them. Those routes are created fully in ArcGIS, but then they're pulled into ULV, and so the driver can actually see the route and the order in which to do it. And that's all I had to say about that as I went to the next slide, apparently. So that spray route feature, most people don't use that, but if there's a high volume of requests, it's a way to make sure that they all get hit, and most of them can be automatically closed. So just summary, again, requests can be created in a variety of ways, managed in the office or the field. It's pretty flexible. We don't require a specific set of steps, so you can decide based on your business process what's the best way to deal with this incoming information. And then that integration with Core and with ArcGIS Online just adds different ways to increase efficiency and handle a lot of data pretty quickly. So I am about 5 minutes out from being done here, 4 minutes, so I'm going to quickly cover what's new in FieldSeeker and what's coming, and then if you have more input or questions, feel free to stop by at the break. So a couple of things about what's new. There is a QR code if you want to go and view a short video of this. It talks about it in more detail. But one of the things we worked on at the end of last season, maybe middle of the season, was storm drain treatment. We now have some enhancements to that, so it tracks the history not only of treatments but also of non-treatments. So some people want to track if it's dry or if they couldn't locate it or any other sort of thing that's not a treatment but says I was there. So it'll track that as a historical inspection now as well. We enhanced some of the surveillance reports to show species priority, added the ability in site visit to sketch in a treatment polygon if you want to save the treatment polygon with the treatment. The maintenance map workflow can now update zone values or zone 2 values for a bunch of data at once. So if you move a zone or divide a zone or rename a zone, it'll apply it to all the data in that zone. So we added that into the maintenance map. We've had a batch attribute editor for a while, but we extended it to apply to storm drains. So then we had to make some changes to support updating thousands of records at a time, because sometimes people want to pick all the storm drains, you know, in a couple of zones and then make them required to treat on April 1st or whatever it is. So there's tools for that in the batch attribute editor. And so, yeah, that's it on that slide, I think. ULV, what's new? We added support for Zealous AccuFlow, Monitor 4, Monitor 5, custom symbology, a faster way to create base maps. So if you're using ULV and you need a new base map, you can request that from us currently, and now we can generate it in a very short time. It used to take a lot longer. Our plan is to introduce that as a customer feature to use, to just generate your own. So we're working out any kinks by doing it ourselves still, but you can request that. And then we made some important improvements in the mobile map for performance. As we got the Mesa Pro with the bigger screen and people using, you know, custom symbology, custom layers, and lots of restricted areas, we had to make sure that all of that gets handled correctly and doesn't cause lags. So we were getting reports of the mobile software starting to lag behind the driver. So everything's still being recorded, but, you know, obviously moving map in the field is only useful if it's keeping up to date. So we had to make some improvements there. Road ahead, couple of QR codes there. I'll take you to, we have road ahead articles on our support portal. We are continuing to work on custom layers in ULV. So if you want to have other layers in your map that aren't FieldSeeker layers, you can import those and set symbology. So we're working on that. And then we're going to support an additional type of sprayer from Zealous, the Monitor LT. More operations we're becoming aware of doing, like roadside larviciding, or and so there's tracking solutions for that. On the core side, we have the ability to import an Excel spreadsheet for trap data now. So you can put all the data into Excel and then just import it. People have been asking for that for a while, so that's there. And we're starting a big-ish project this winter to update the mobile app's appearance, look and feel, and also update to the latest .NET MAUI and the latest Esri runtime. So it's a big internal project, but look for more information later in the spring about kind of the new look and feel of the next iteration of the mobile app. And ULV, just a couple of reminders. We have a webinar coming up this Thursday that will talk about care and feeding for the mesas and just kind of the updates and maintenance that are recommended. And so if you haven't already signed up for that, if you're interested, please do. And there's my timer. That's when we need the Darth Vader, right? Yeah. Yep. Done. So we are hiring and we are looking for a Kung Fu artist. So if you know of anybody who's interested in supporting Field Seeker, we're adding to our team. There's my contact information, and then that's it. So thank you for your time.